UN SDG number 16 is dedicated to creating just societies by establishing accountable and inclusive institutions. This goal clarifies a need for equal and fair representation at all levels, as well as guaranteed protections within the system. By addressing these intersectional challenges, such as accessibility or poverty, we can build a commitment to a more responsive and inclusive society. UN SDG 16 hopes to alleviate conflict and inequality issues, as well as address their underlying causes, advocating for the communities that are most subject to injustice. Two important targets within UN SDG 16's mission goals are 16.3 and 16.6. Target 16.3 hopes to enhance the rule of law and ensure equal access to justice, while Target 16.6 focuses on establishing transparent and accountable institutions. Both objectives are crucial for addressing human rights violations in marginalized communities. With their mention, a relationship can be drawn between the lack of legal protections and which areas experience cycles of violence and poverty. The protections within UN SDG 16 makes it highly relevant to the current red tide crisis in Tampa Bay. Addressing large-scale environmental challenges requires effective governing. Climate emergencies such as the red tide outbreak need organized governmental responses. This can only be properly issued through mandate. SDG 16 understands the significance of reliable organizations and regulatory bodies. These groups make and enforce environmental rules, controlling our climate action and policy creation. They are responsible for protecting disadvantaged communities. Following a crisis, governing bodies are to elicit emergency funding, review the active protections, and establish new sustainability efforts. SDG 16 requires strong institutions to be present, capable of enforcing new regulations, as well as driving future public participation. The ongoing red tide crisis in Tampa Bay has disproportionately affected marginalized groups. Climate change has rapidly worsened, making the frequency and severity of our red tide more harmful to our coastal communities. Diseased produce, water contamination, and beach closures all threaten the local economic stability and livelihoods. These areas rely heavily on their marine resources. Their local industry quickly suffers without access to fishing or tourism. Red tides in the bay have been caused by blooms of Karenia brevis algae. This algae produces a harmful toxin poisonous to both marine life and humans. Algae exposure can cause respiratory damage or other illnesses, affecting both economic and bodily welfare. With limited access to health care, marginalized groups typically have heightened health concerns, making them more vulnerable to ailments from newfound viruses like the red tide. To create a more stable society, there needs to be equitable support and resourcing. This outbreak exemplifies marginalized groups' challenges and how the regulations within our institutions can be protected through UN SDG 16.